everybody. Welcome into Week 11 of DFS. This is the Adjusted Line Play Report presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. We're getting to the end here, Week 11 already of a 18-week season. It's coming and it's gone, folks. Anyway, today's show is presented by Rain Total Body Fuel, folks. Looking to make it rain some money in DFS? Well, tune in to the Adjusted Line Play Report from Zilla Fantasy Elite. Follow host Todd Hoffman while he delivers the most accurate DFS advice in the industry and make it rain. Here we go. Ooh. Don't know if the mic can pick up that ASMR though. We got White Gummy Bear fueling us this morning. Here we go. November 20th, 9 o'clock in the morning here. Gonna get this done and hopefully we can get you guys some quality in the trenches advice that will allow us to crush our opponents this week and make some money. Anyway, as always, we're going to start with the highest Vegas totals and then make our way down and give the Adjusted Line Play Report suggestions on who are the best plays. And as you can see, I got my palm trees, my Puerto Rican hat. I'm just an island boy trying to make some money. Just an island boy. Let's go. Come on. Let's make some cash, folks. Got to have some fun here. So, number one game on the slate. Everybody, this is the belle of the ball. One of the best ones on the entire year at 56 points from Vegas. We have Kansas City hosting Dallas. So, Dallas at Kansas City. Kansas City, 2.5-point home favorites there. We're going to start with the away team here. Dallas, number 3 in offensive pass protection and number 2 in offensive run blocking. So very nice from them. Unfortunately for their offense, Dallas, number 30 in the pass rush defense. So that's number 3 for Dallas versus number 30 for Kansas City. Super smash spot for Dallas's pass game here, and we'll talk about that in a bit. On the run side, Dallas, number 2 in run blocking. Kansas City, 21st in the adjusted rush yards on defense. Also a quality matchup for the running backs there. Now, we got some news earlier this week that Amari Cooper will be out with COVID. So that's going to bump up CeeDee Lamb big time. He's going to be super popular this week. Just know that for your GPPs. He should get into your cash lineups of some way or another. But the sneakier play and the cheaper play this week is going to be looking more at Michael Gallup and maybe Cedric Wilson even. And then also the tight end there. Dalton Schultz should be killing it this week. Anyway, we still have plenty of time for Dallas to throw the ball, and I expect CeeDee Lamb and especially it seems like Michael Gallup's the one, if they have time and they can throw it deep, Michael Gallup is the one that benefits the most from that. So I expect him to crush his low salary this week and just be an absolute blessing to have in your lineups. You could possibly even have him in your cash lineups if you wanted to save some money and get up to some of these elite running backs. There's a lot of good running back plays this week, so keep that in mind. On the run game side, Zeke definitely in play here. Pollard could be in play too, just with with Amari Cooper being out. We could see Pollard out there on more pass routes. We could also see Zeke with more pass routes as well in this as they try to kind of patch that piece together with Amari Cooper missing. I don't think it's necessarily a one-for-one correlation with Cedric Wilson and the rest of their wide receivers. They're taking all of Cooper's production, but certainly possible that they do that, and then the running backs are just kind of left with what they normally get. But anyway, that's the Dallas side. You're going to just want to fire up everybody on Dallas. If you have them in redraft, put them in your starting lineup, and they should smash this week. On the Kansas City side, we have them at number 6 in offensive pass protection, which is good. Dallas starting to climb the ranks there in the defensive pass rush. They're at number 11 now. But Kansas City should have time to throw the ball against Dallas, and this is going to mean Tyreek Hill should be able to get open downfield. Not sure how much he's going to get shot out by Diggs, but he does get burned often enough. Even though he is a ball hawk, he isn't necessarily like the shutdown corner that people are worried about. And Tyreek Hill, it doesn't really matter anyway. The guy's good enough to get open against anybody. So I like Tyreek Hill in the offensive pass protection here. And obviously, you can throw in some of those other wide receivers. They should be scoring a ton of points here, almost a little over 29 projected Vegas total there for their team. On the run blocking side, Kansas City's number 12, which is also pretty good, but Dallas number 15 there. It's kind of a wash. It sounds like CEH might come back. Darrell Williams still there. That's kind of an avoid for me on the running backs in Kansas City. I would like to focus more on the pass game. I wouldn't expect, even if CEH comes back, that Darrell Williams or CEH would get a ton of work. If CEH sits, Darrell Williams is definitely enticing as far as potentially getting some dump offs. If you think Dallas will overwhelm Kansas City's offensive line, potentially, they are in play. Anyway, it's going to be super popular. You're going to want some of these pieces into your GPP lineups, but just know that the players there are going to be popular. So stacking like 5 or 6 people from this particular matchup, you're going to have to get different elsewhere pretty significantly if you want to actually win the tournament, if this game hits. So that's the number 1 game on the slate. We're going to go to number 2, actually. So this one's been getting bet up this week. It's Cincinnati at Las Vegas. The only other game that's over a 50-point total this week, I believe. Let's go up to number 3 here. Okay, Indianapolis at Buffalo is 50. So we got three above 50, but we're looking at the Dallas-Kansas City game being at 56, and the next closest at 50.5. So that's the Cincinnati and Vegas game. It's a big gap there. There's still some points to be had in this game, and we're going to start with the Cincinnati side. They are 1-point road favorites against Vegas here, which is kind of interesting, but you like these games with the 1 point, half a point, even 1.5 point type of lines where Vegas thinks they're just going to be going back and forth. Nobody's going to be taking the lead, because that's just going to lead to usually a back and forth type of environment and hopefully some scoring, and not where people are going to sit their starters because they're a 20-point favorite or anything like that. So on the Cincinnati side, their offensive pass protection number 25 versus Vegas number 23 pass rush defense. Vegas doesn't really get a ton of sacks, but they do generate a lot of pressure with just 4 people. So that's kind of how they operate on defense there. Cincinnati's run game, number 11. Las Vegas, number 19. I do like Cincinnati to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively in this game. That means Mixon is in play. As far as the pass game, I do expect Cincinnati to just be kind of what they're used to in the pass game. We've seen them ramp up their production or their pass play volume here in the last 5-7 weeks probably. So Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are the 2 that are giving you either the targets or the fantasy production, and probably where you want to go for the most part. If you think this is going to be back and forth shootout and Vegas is going to be able to generate some pressure on Cincinnati, Tyler Boyd could certainly be in play here. Not entirely sure if I want to go the tight end route here, but we have seen that be successful more when Cincinnati is under pressure. We've seen the tight end go off there, CJ Uzomah. And then on the run blocking side, or especially if you think Cincinnati is going to be under pressure, that could be in 2 or 3 more targets for Mixon in this particular matchup. Mixon is somebody that I like to have a solid game. I don't know if he's going to have a slate-breaking game compared to some of these other players, but certainly in play. On the Vegas side, we have them number 14 in offensive pass protection, Cincinnati number 24 in the pass rush defense, so they haven't been getting after the quarterback necessarily. Las Vegas should have some time to throw the ball, which means I really do like Bryan Edwards in this particular matchup and Deshaun Jackson. These 2 are very sneaky GPP plays. This is the number 2 highest game total on the slate this week, on the main slate anyway, at 50.5. If this is a back and forth matchup, just 2 good offenses scoring on relatively middle of the road or poor defenses, which I could certainly see this hitting the over if that's the case, going back and forth in the dome. Brian Edwards, very attractive. Deshaun Jackson could easily see 1 or 2 bombs. Doesn't seem like Derek Carr is afraid to do that. Otherwise, Darren Waller's obviously always in play. And those are really the only 3 players I'm looking at on the Vegas pass game is Deshaun Jackson, just because he's going to be so low rostered and he does have the potential to boom in this matchup. Brian Edwards, also very low rostered. I think he has the potential to have another solid week. And then Waller's always in play every single week, especially if you think Cincinnati might be able to get after Vegas, or just that he's going to have more time to get open. Waller's always in play. On the run blocking side, Vegas is middle of the road at 15, but Cincinnati number 4 in the defensive adjusted rush yards. I don't like Josh Jacobs, period. I especially don't like him this week. I don't like Kenyon Drake this week either, so those are 2 people that I'm going to avoid. Do like Mixon on the opposite side, but this is a running backfield that I'm avoiding this week. Again, that's the number 2 ranked game on the slate. A lot of these afternoon games are the high ones, so if you have a lot of the early games and you're feeling good, like, oh yeah, like I'm sitting here in the top 10 going into the afternoon games, watch out because you're probably going to get blown out of the water after that, because a lot of the high matchups are in the afternoon slate. However, the number 3 ranked game is Indianapolis at Buffalo, which is not on the afternoon games. This is one of the early games. So Indianapolis at Buffalo is the last 50-point total that we have. And we have Buffalo at 7-point home favorites over Indianapolis. And we're going to start there with Indianapolis. Number 11 in the offensive pass protection, which is good because Buffalo is number 21 in the pass rush defense. If we expect Buffalo to be up on Indianapolis, which we do, and we'll get to that, they should be able to score at will via the pass attack against Indianapolis. Indianapolis, fortunately, should have some time to pass the ball against Buffalo. I do like the odds of Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton having solid weeks for the Indianapolis pass game. And that could be your savior there. I don't know how many people are going to be on the Indianapolis pass game. That could be sneaky beneficial in some GPPs, getting like a Michael Pittman in there. I know Buffalo has been shutting down the wide receivers, but it could just be Indianapolis get shut out, but I don't know about that. I think they're good enough and they have enough weapons that some of the wide receivers could have a good game here. On the run blocking side, Indianapolis is very good in the run blocking. They're number 8, but Buffalo number 2 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. Jonathan Taylor certainly talented enough to take stuff to the house. I just don't know how much that's going to happen in this game against Buffalo. I don't think he's going to have the game script to have a solid rushing week. And we've seen in the past Indianapolis when they get behind, which recently hasn't been like a ton, but if they're getting boat raced in this, if they're down 10, 13, 12, 14 points in this particular matchup, I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to be in there a whole ton getting carries. I think it's going to be more the Nyheim Hines type of week where he's running routes and trying to get open as they trying to come back from a deficit here. So on the running side, I might actually prefer Nyheim Hines in like a deeper redraft league or a deeper dynasty type of league. Hines might be having a good game. Obviously, you're going to start Taylor. Just temper your expectations about him having a monster week against Buffalo. He's capable of bringing a 70-yarder to the house, but wouldn't expect it against such a good team in Buffalo. So attacking more of the Indianapolis pass game, kind of fading the run game there. And on the Buffalo side, they are number 8 in offensive pass protection, and this is what I was talking about. Number 8 offensive pass protection. Indianapolis, number 28 in the defensive pass rush. So Buffalo, they are very pass happy just in general, and they love it. Indianapolis, very, very poor at getting after the quarterback, and they have a pretty poor secondary. They do play a lot of zone, and Buffalo should destroy that in this particular matchup. I like all the wide receivers there, so it sounds like Beasley's going to play this week, which is unfortunate because I would have liked a little bit of target consolidation to Diggs and Sanders and Gabe Davis. I like those 3 this week. With a bunch of time to pass, I don't necessarily think they're going to be dinking and dunking to Cole Beasley this week. I think it's going to be more of those explosive plays to Diggs. It's going to be more explosive plays to Sanders and to Gabe Davis. Dawson Knox last week coming off of the injury, kind of a poor week, but we did see prior to his hand injury, he was being used down the field in some of these more explosive plays. I don't know how adept at route running he is. I don't think he's one of the elite, route running tight ends, but that could just mean if they have more time, he's going to get a little bit more time to get those intermediate routes where he gets open. So Knox could certainly be in play here too against Indianapolis. Just keep that in mind. He could find himself with quite a few targets at the end of this, especially if Buffalo is putting up points and they're finding themselves in the red zone. Knox could be in line for a touchdown in this particular matchup, maybe two, but I think Buffalo spreads it around in this game, and that's going to be it for that number 3 ranked game, folks. We're going to go down to number 4 and 5, which again are in the late games. So we have number 4, which is Arizona at Seattle. So we dropped from 50 in that Buffalo-Indianapolis game. The next ranked game, 47.5. So we dropped 2.5 points in the Vegas. And the rest of them are kind of squished in a very narrow range here from 4 through 11. So we have a 12-game slate again, but it's pretty top-heavy this week as far as the Vegas totals are concerned. So Arizona at Seattle, 47.5 points. We have Arizona as 1.5-point road favorites. I think that could switch if we get news that Kyler Murray isn't playing. It sounds like he will, though. This is a divisional matchup. It sounds like he's really showed some improvement this week compared to what he has been doing. So I like his chances of actually playing in this. I just don't know how effective he's going to be if he can't run around as well as he can. Fortunately, Seattle's defensive pass rush is pretty poor. So going with the away team here, Arizona, number 18 in offensive pass protection, sort of middle of the road there, a little bit below average. Seattle, though, number 29 in the pass rush on defense. Arizona should have plenty of time to pass the ball. We already have DeAndre Hopkins ruled out due to injury. I do like the prospects of Christian Kirk and AJ Green in this particular matchup if they're going to have time. Same with Zach Ertz. I think he could see some targets, even though they're not going to be under pressure. I could see being a little bit less mobile for Kyler Murray. He's just going to be more apt to kind of settle for these underneath throws, especially if there's any sort of pressure on the line. I could see him just kind of settling for these guys that are open. So I think AJ Green and Kirk and Ertz are certainly a bit good plays this week. With Hopkins being out, you do have like the tertiary aspect of Rondale Moore getting in there, but we haven't seen him really fire except for week 2 on a busted coverage play in Minnesota, which he did house, and that's kind of the most that we've seen out of him this particular year. Just doesn't seem like he's super involved yet in that offense. On the run blocking side, it's 16 versus 16, dead even there. Just expect the usual point scorers, which is James Conner to score the points there in the run game. If they're going to lean a little bit heavier on the run game, if Kyler's a little banged up or if there's a backup quarterback, it would kind of bring the whole offense down. Even with Hopkins in there, it kind of brings the whole offense down. But Seattle's defense is just that poor that Arizona should be able to move the ball. But Conner, he's just, he's that touchdown threat. He could see another 1 or 2 touchdowns in this if they find themselves on the goal line. Unfortunately, I don't see this being like a huge shootout type of game. Certainly possible with Russ and Kyler playing well, but that's not the way I kind of see this. I like the 47.5 point total there. I think that's pretty spot on for this particular game. I don't see it getting out of control anyway. On the Seattle side, we have Seattle at number 31 in the offensive pass protection. Arizona number 7 on the pass rush defense, so they are getting after the quarterback. Arizona defense certainly in play here against a banged up Russell Wilson with that weird finger. They could be getting after him, but if that's the case, Seattle's probably going to need to get the ball out a little bit quicker. I do like Gerald Everett and Tyler Lockett in this particular matchup. With that being the case, Tyler Lockett does run more of the slot routes underneath type things, where DK Metcalf is more of the lid lifter and running deeper routes. So I like Lockett and I like Everett in this. Obviously, you're not going to sit DK Metcalf if he's in your redraft, but I'm not going to have any of him in GPPs necessarily for this particular matchup. I just don't think he's a very good play. I do like Everett as a tight end. I do like Lockett as a low roster GPP type of player. And then on the run blocking side, we have Seattle 20, Arizona 20. So the running attacks for both Arizona and Seattle are dead even. We just got Chris Carson going to be ruled out for the rest of the season, so it's going to be the Alex Collins show. He was out earlier this week with a groin injury, but he will be playing this particular matchup. So it's going to be the three-headed monster of Alex Collins and DJ Dallas, or maybe a four-headed monster if you want to call that, with Travis Homer in there as well. But Rashad Penny and Alex Collins and DJ Dallas and maybe Homer in there. It's just an ugly backfield, something that I'm not necessarily looking to attack unless I'm in the deepest of dynasty leagues and I need to start some of those scrubs. So that's the number 4 game. For being the number 4 game, there's not a lot of pieces that I'm super interested in. Maybe some of the Arizona pass attack and Lockett. Otherwise, Everett, if you want a cheap tight end, is certainly in play as well. So the number 5 game on the slate. This used to be the number 2 game for this particular matchup, and earlier in the week, it's Green Bay at Minnesota. It came out with, I think, a 50-point over-under from Vegas, but it's been bet down to 47. Just seems like the sharps in Vegas don't expect this to be a high-scoring matchup, which is kind of interesting given the adjusted line play report. I think it could get interesting. However, on the Green Bay side, we're going to start there. This is a dead even, so 47-point total. Green Bay was favored for the vast majority of the week. We now have them. I don't know if this is due to the Aaron Rodgers toe injury or why it's being bet down and why Green Bay and Minnesota is now dead even. It's just to pick them. You pick the winner. There's no line here, and that's how it's going to go as of Saturday morning anyway. We have Green Bay number 15 in offensive pass protection. They're middle of the road, but Minnesota is still number 4 in the offensive pass rush and defense, so they're generating a lot of sacks. They did lose Danielle Hunter with a pec injury for a while. I think he's still out, so I don't know how well they've been getting after the quarterback with him out there, but they're still number 4 in the pass rush on defense. So I think Green Bay is going to be under pressure a little bit there. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to need to get the ball out a little bit quicker, which is going to be probably more passes to Devontae Adams. We do have Allen Lazard basically out with the shoulder injury. He's not out, but he's doubtful. So MVS is probably going to step into that number 2 wide receiver role, but he's more of the deep threat. He just goes long. I don't expect that to be how they're attacking Minnesota this particular game. So I think it's Devontae Adams, it's Cobb, and it's the running backs this week that are going to get those dump-off targets when they're under pressure, which leads me to the run game and A.J. Dillon, who I think is a top 3 running back play this particular week. I think he's going to be a top 3 fantasy running back this week. So get him into your cash game lineups. He's a lock for tons of volume. They are number 9 in offensive run blocking. Minnesota number 32 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. They are getting gashed in the run game. I think A.J. Dillon is in for a monster week. As I said, I think he's a top 3 running back in fantasy this week. So get him into your lineup, especially if Green Bay is going to be a little bit under pressure. I think he's going to see maybe another 4 to 6 targets in this game, as well as like 18 to 22 carries. You can't beat that kind of volume. He is going to be popular in the GPPs, but that's fine if he's going to give you that top 3 production. And he's not a top 3 price this week. So he's somebody I'm going to have in a lot of my GPP lineups, even though he's popular. That is going to be some good chalk to nom nom. So that's the Green Bay side. Looking at Devontae Adams and probably A.J. Dillon, and that's about it. On the Minnesota side, their offensive pass protection still top 2. They are just crushing it there, not getting Cousins sacked. Anyway, they're number 2. Green Bay number 20 in the defensive pass rush. That's a good matchup for Minnesota, right? So if Green Bay is going to be kind of moving the ball on the ground and dink and dunk passes, Minnesota should have some more explosive plays on offense. I do like Justin Jefferson in this, and Adam Thielen as well. I think Minnesota should move the ball via the pass attack pretty well. On the run blocking side, though, Dalvin Cook could be in play here. So this is kind of a rare event for Minnesota this year. Is their run blocking offense is number 26. So they haven't been able to kind of push their will in the run game the way that Mike Zimmer would like this particular year. But Green Bay is number 30 in the defensive adjusted rush yards. So Cook could find himself with a more efficient week than he's used to. So I expect Minnesota to actually be able to move the ball pretty well in this matchup against Green Bay. I do like your Dalvin Cooks, I like your Justin Jeffersons, and I like your Adam Thielens this week. Not super interested in Conklin necessarily, even though Green Bay was getting gashed by tight ends earlier in the year. If Minnesota's going to have a lot of time and be able to run the ball, I think Conklin probably going to be one of those not super viable tight ends this week. Just keep that in mind. So that's the number 5 ranked game. We're going to move on to the number 6 ranked game, which is San Francisco at Jacksonville, which I kind of think is a sneaky game, especially for GPPs. Go check out the tweet that I sent out on Thursday with the adjusted line play report on that. But we're going to go over that a little bit more in depth. So we're already from the number 5, being 47. Number 4 is 47.5 from 50. We went all the way from 50 down to number 6 here. We're down at 45.5 already. So that's getting ugly. Like 45.5 earlier this year was one of the worst games on the slate. This is number 6 out of 12. So just keep that in mind. But with all these other games that are higher above, they're going to be super popular. San Francisco, Jacksonville, no one is going to be on these guys. And I think this is a sneaky GPP particular game. So let's start with San Francisco. Number 16 in offensive pass protection. Jacksonville, 31st at generating a pass rush. They should have plenty of time to pass the ball in San Francisco. I finally think this is an Ayuk blow-up week. I think he could get open often in this particular matchup. We have Debo kind of underneath. We have Kittle as more of the intermediate, and we have Ayuk who can go deep. I think this is going to be an Ayuk and Kittle type of week, and we'll see Debo maybe come back to earth. He's going to get his share, but it's not going to be a blow-up game, I don't think, for Debo. I think we're going to see San Francisco be able to air it out a little bit against them. In the run game, we have number 23 offensive run blocking, Jacksonville, number 14 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. So they should be able to do pretty well against San Francisco's rush game there, but fortunately we've had some injury. Fortunately for fantasy purposes, not for these players, but for fantasy purposes, we've had some injuries in front of Jeff Wilson Jr., so it sounds like Eli Mitchell is doubtful to play with his finger injury. We've had JaMychal Hasty ruled out, so those two guys are out. And they were playing ahead of Trey Sermon anyway, so I think this is going to be Jeff Wilson's particular week with Trey Sermon just kind of filling in, getting his 5 to 8 touches. I don't think they're super high on Sermon there, and I think this is a Jeff Wilson type of game. San Francisco, as I said, this is a 45.5 point game total. San Francisco is favored by 6.5 points on the road. So if we expect them to be up, this could be some Jeff Wilson touchdown type of game. If Ayuk isn't scoring them from long, or Kittle from the intermediate distance, we could see some Jeff Wilson multi-touchdown game this week. Just keep that in mind. Again, sneaky GPP plays. Ayuk and Jeff Wilson, I think, are sneaky GPP plays this week. On the Jacksonville side, we have some more. They're number 9 in the offensive pass protection, and San Francisco is number 26 at generating a pass rush, plus their secondary is terrible. I know Jacksonville has been really bad in the pass game. Their offense has just been bad in general. I think they get right in this against San Francisco's poor pass rush and poor secondary. I think this is one where Marvin Jones could see quite a bit of run, and I could see Lawrence having a pretty solid week this week, maybe over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in this. Just keep that in mind. I think this is a sneaky GPP game. No one's going to be on it. And just with the adjusted line play, I think Jacksonville could be very successful via the air, especially if they're going to be down from San Francisco. San Francisco should be able to score with some explosive plays. So the 45.5 point game, that might be one that I would like to bet the over on, just based off of the adjusted line play report. If you are a prop betting type of person, I think Jacksonville can hold their own against San Francisco, and San Francisco should have some explosive plays in this game. So I like the chances of this hitting the over. I do like the Jacksonville pass game, as I said. Jamal Agnew in play. I do like Marvin Jones Jr. in this particular one. And I don't know what the deal is with Laviska Shenault, but he has been leading the team in targets the last few games, so he's certainly in play as well. On the run blocking side, we have Jacksonville top 5 at number 5, but San Francisco's defense is top 5 as well. They're number 5, so that's a complete wash, 5 versus 5. We have James Robinson another week healthier than he was last week when he came back. I don't think this is necessarily a smash spot for him, but you could see some effective production in this particular matchup, but I don't see any upside as far as winning tournaments, so don't put him in your tournament lineups as far as I'm concerned. I'm more interested in the Jacksonville pass game. Again, like I said, this is number 6 out of 12 games. It's already at 45.5. I said it gets really condensed down here, so that's the number 6 game. We have 2 of them that are tied for number 7, which is a 45-point total. First one we're going to go over is Miami at the Jets. 45-point game total, as I said. Miami 3-point road favorites in this. They are 24th in offensive pass protection. Jets number 19 at generating a pass rush. So that's kind of a wash. A little bit in favor of the Jets. Miami probably going to need a little bit quicker throws, but maybe should have more time than they're used to. So it's just going to be Waddle and Gesicki again. I think that's the only 2 people you're going to want in this particular matchup for the wide receivers and pass catchers in Miami. Miami's number 31 in the offensive run blocking. The Jets number 22 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. I know the Jets are giving it up at a historical pace to the running backs, and I believe they're giving up a lot of pass game work to the running back position too. So if Miami's going to be under pressure on the pass rush during their pass game situations, and Gaskin's in there, he could find himself with quite a few targets in this particular matchup. Just keep that in mind. It's a lower game total, but those are probably the only 3 people from Miami that you can consider for any sort of tournament play. Gaskin could be sneaky. He's going to be somewhat low rostered. I've been hearing some people talk about this game, so he might find himself a little bit more popular than you'd like for a GPP, especially in this type of game environment that doesn't really scream that he's going to be super successful. On the Jets side, number 19 in offensive pass protection. Miami 18th at generating a pass rush. That's kind of a wash. Flacco will be in there. If he's going to have somewhat of some time because Miami can't get after the quarterback, I do like him targeting Corey Davis in this particular matchup. That's just kind of what Joe Flacco does. And if he's not open or he's covered by the wide receivers, I think he's just going to be dumping it off to the running backs and tight ends. So I could see Michael Carter and Ty Johnson with an increased volume of targets this week. Their run blocking unit is number 28 versus Miami's number 13 at stopping the run. Don't expect the Jets to run the ball very well, but I do like Michael Carter and Ty Johnson getting targets in this particular matchup, with Flacco being a little bit more of a statue pocket type quarterback. I like Corey Davis in the pass game, and I like him to dump it off short to the running backs. And maybe the tight ends there, Ryan Griffin, we could see him be successful. We saw Dennis Pitta have some nice play there with Flacco earlier in his career. Anyway, Jets kind of ugly. Not something I'm super interested in unless I got to start like a Corey Davis in a larger league. Baltimore at Chicago, number 7 here, tied for number 7 at that 45-point game total. Baltimore, 6-point road favorites. This one has a little bit more appeal for some fantasy goodness. We have Baltimore at number 28 in the offensive pass protection. Chicago number 2 at generating a pass rush on defense. Now we know that Khalil Mack will be out for the year. You might say, well, their pass rush won't be as good. He's been out for the last few weeks, and Chicago has still been getting after the quarterback. I think this is just going to lead to quicker passes on the Baltimore side and more Lamar Jackson rush attempts, which I think leads to success for not only Lamar Jackson, but Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews, as they are more of the underneath threats there. Sammy Watkins could also be in play, but I think it's going to be more of the Bateman and Andrews show. Watkins could be sneaky here, but the run blocking unit, number 25 for Baltimore, number 28 for Chicago, that's kind of a wash. Baltimore should find a little bit more success in the run game than they're perhaps used to, but pick your poison on who's actually going to be there. Latavius Murray might be coming back. He might not be. They just got a bunch of old busted running backs there. I do think Murray comes back because they released the former stud Lev Bell, and I think that means Latavius Murray will be back. How much of the volume he's going to end up taking, I think you don't want any of these running backs. You're going to want Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and Bateman. And possibly as a dart throw, you could sneak in a Sammy Watkins if you think he's going to be more of that underneath target in this particular matchup. On the Chicago side, we have number 32 offensive pass protection, which is dead last, versus Baltimore, number 22 pass rush. So Chicago's usually going to be under pressure. They're used to that. Baltimore, though, hasn't been super good at getting after the quarterback, which might lead to a little bit more time for Chicago. The weird thing is here, Allen Robinson seems like he's going to be out. He's got an injury. Doesn't seem like he's going to play this week, which really limits the targets. It's pretty much going to be Mooney out there. He was already getting more snaps than Allen Robinson. And the next man up is Marquise Goodwin. I think he's over 30 years old now. He's just like a speed guy. He's very similar in play style, I guess, to Darnell Mooney, except Mooney's just way better at running routes and getting open. So I don't see him garnering a lot of targets. I think it's going to be the Cole Kmet show and Darnell Mooney getting most of the targets in this particular matchup. If Chicago's going to have to get the ball out quick, I like Cole Kmet in this matchup, having a kind of a smash spot based off of the adjusted line play report here. And I think they're going to run more tight end sets as well with Robinson being out. So the next people up, I think Jesse James and Jimmy Graham will be there playing a few more snaps. And you could see the running backs getting involved in the pass game. So maybe Khalil Herbert, who had the first game back from David Montgomery, he just got his role back essentially. And we saw Herbert kind of spell him a little bit. Herbert's a decent enough pass catcher. We could see some two running back sets here, and then Montgomery and him going out for pass plays or running routes there more often than what they might be used to with Allen Robinson in there. On the run blocking side, Chicago number 19, Baltimore number 3. I don't expect the run game to be super successful against Baltimore, especially if they're down. I think this could be a weird like Justin Fields week where maybe he's flushed out of the pocket more and getting some rush attempts for you, and also just kind of a Cole Kmet week. I like him in this particular matchup. I'm not sure how effective Mooney is going to be if there's not a ton of time. He should see targets, but keep that in mind. A lot more fantasy options in this 45-point game total than the Miami game previously. So after that, we're going to go to the number 9 game on the slate, which is Houston at Tennessee. Also kind of some sneaky plays here. 44.5-point game total here. Houston, 10-point road underdogs to Tennessee. Tennessee should smash in this, obviously. Houston, number 26 in the offensive pass protection. Tennessee, number 5 at generating a pass rush. Houston is going to be under siege, and it doesn't get any better necessarily on the run blocking side, where they're 32nd versus Tennessee's number 25 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. So Houston's going to have to keep it underneath, which just means like their tight ends are going to get a bunch of targets, and their running backs are probably going to get a bunch of targets. Cooks does run some underneath stuff, so you could see him getting 6 to 8 targets in this, but I don't think he's going to be super successful against Tennessee. In the run blocking, I just avoid all the running backs there in Houston, and I don't think that's a good place to win any money in any sort of league, unless you're betting the unders on a pick'em type of league there. On the Tennessee side, we have them number 29 in offensive pass protection. Obviously, their defense is in play, as we talked about the 5 versus 26 on the pass rush. Tennessee, number 29 in the pass protection. Houston, number 10 in the defense of pass rush. So Houston defense, you could find them getting after the quarterback a little bit, but I don't know how much Tennessee's actually going to be passing it versus running it if they're up big in this game against Houston, which people expect. Either way, Tennessee should need quicker passes, which Marcus Johnson, I think, is a wide receiver 2 right now. We do have Swaim out at tight end, so it might be, I would have liked McNichols in this spot if they're going to be under pressure on the passing attack, and they're kind of out a bunch of wide receivers. That tends to lead to the pass-catching running backs. Unfortunately, McNichols is out, so that kind of leaves Adrian Peterson and Deonta Foreman as the 2 running backs there in Tennessee. I think they're probably both viable as far as streaming options in your flex spot this week, but I'm not going to put them into any sort of cash or GPP lineup. I think they vulture each other's upside in this particular matchup. On the run blocking side for Tennessee, that's number 24 versus number 26. It's kind of a wash. So, like I said, I think the run game will be fine. It's just not going to be, there's no ceiling there necessarily for Tennessee, as I think those 2, Adrian Peterson and Deonta Foreman, kind of eat into each other. And then the pass attack, you basically are looking at A.J. Brown and Marcus Johnson and no one else in that particular matchup. Maybe Nick Westbrook-Akeen if he's running slot routes there, but it's kind of gross. I don't want that. So from there, number 9, we're going to go to number 10, which is the Detroit at Cleveland game. We're already down to a 43-point game total here, and they're not even the worst on the slate. There's still 2 games worse than them. Detroit at Cleveland again. Cleveland 12-point home favorites. They are the largest favorite there this particular week. We're going to start Detroit, number 22 in the offensive pass protection. Cleveland, number 3, generating a pass rush. Cleveland defense certainly in play here. Tim Boyle sounds like he's going to start over Goff. Goff had been terrible. Tim Boyle probably even worse than Goff, right? So Cleveland should generate a few turnovers on that end if they're up and Detroit is in passing game situations. I think they're in line for quite a few sacks and potentials for those turnovers. So Cleveland defense certainly in play there. But Detroit's going to need to get the ball out quick, which is probably just going to be DeAndre Swift, and it's going to be TJ Hawkinson in this particular matchup. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown running some underneath routes, but gross. I don't want the wide receivers necessarily for Detroit. Hawkinson and Swift are the only guys that I would be interested in playing anywhere this week. Detroit's run blocking 21st, Cleveland number 7 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. Again, Cleveland defense in play. Don't expect Detroit to run the ball very effectively. Jamal Williams should be back though, and if they're going to be dumping off passes, Jamal Williams in a negative game script, he might be in there quite a bit and getting targets. So he could be somebody that I don't know how cheap he is on these sites, but on DraftKings, if he's ultra cheap, you could see him getting 5 or 6, 7 targets in this particular matchup, and just eating into that Swift production that we saw last week with like the almost 40 opportunities that he had last week. Just watch out for that. That could be unexpected for most of the people this week. On the Cleveland side for offense, they're number 30th in offensive pass protection, which is horrible. Luckily for them, Detroit's number 27 at generating a pass rush, so Cleveland should have a little bit more time in this particular matchup to throw the ball. I expect them to run it, though. They're number 3 in offensive run blocking. Detroit 23rd, so Cleveland should be able to run the ball down their throats. We have Chubb coming back from COVID. Hopefully he's fine, and all the lung issues and how good of shape he's in after that COVID battle. Hopefully it's fine and Chubb can just go in there and dominate, which he should in this particular matchup. With that being said, and them being able to pound the ball down Detroit's throat, I could see them also taking some deep shots to Donovan Peoples-Jones in this, especially if they're going to have time and be running the ball down their throats. I think there's going to be some opportunities for some deep bombs to him, so watch out for that. Schwartz, I don't think is going to play due to a concussion, so Donovan Peoples-Jones, definitely a sneaky dart throw in one of these ugly type of games, so keep that in mind. On the Cleveland side, it's pretty much Chubb and DPJ for me. All right, let's get on to the 2 ugliest games here, which are 42.5-point game totals. They are tied for 11th out of 12, so 11 and 11 to round it out. We have Washington at Carolina as this first one. Carolina 3.5-point home favorites. We're going to start with Washington, number 20th in offensive pass protection. So a little bit below average there. Carolina number 1 in the pass rush on defense. They have a good secondary there as well. Expect Carolina to get after Washington. They could generate quite a few sacks, but this could also lead to a lot more flush outs and rushing attempts for Heineke. Not somebody that I'm necessarily going to be doing in cash anywhere. GPP dart throw possibly if you think he's going to rush for a bunch and score some touchdowns. But that's low probability stuff there. He's going to need to get the ball out quicker. It sounds like Curtis Samuel might be back, but it could be DeAndre Carter and J.D. McKissic getting all of these dump-offs from that particular aspect if they're going to be under siege, and they're going to need to get the ball out quick. Ricky Seals-Jones doesn't sound like he's going to play this week, and they already have their starting tight end still out, still having the hammy issue. It sounds like next man up, some no-name dude. Probably not interested in getting them into my lineup. It's going to be spread out probably to J.D. McKissic for the most part on these dump-offs if he's going to be under siege. Keep that in mind. So Washington run blocking number 22, Carolina number 10, also not in favor of Washington. So I don't like Gibson's chances of scoring a ton of fantasy points in this particular matchup, especially with Carolina probably not being able to push Washington to score a bunch of points. I do see this being one of the low scoring games, right? So same as Vegas. Just kind of a gross game for Washington. McKissic's probably the best play for you on this particular slate. Carolina side, we have them number 23 in offensive pass protection. Washington number 14. Looks like a favor for Carolina, but Washington did lose Chase, so he is out for the rest of the year with an injury. I think he tore his ACL, which unfortunate for Washington and the player. But it could mean Carolina still gets a little bit more time to pass the ball, which could be in favor of DJ Moore with Cam Newton throwing the ball. But if Washington, you figure they're still going to get after Carolina in this particular matchup, CMC could see a bunch of dump-offs. I think that's going to be part of the game plan in general with Cam Newton in there. On the rushing attack, we have Carolina number 17 in run blocking offense, Washington number 11 on the adjusted rush yards on defense. I don't know how much the Chase Young injury plays into the rush attack there, but really the Carolina player that I'm going to put in anything is either a naked Cam Newton or some Christian McCaffrey into some of these. It's just a low game total, and you're really hoping that McCaffrey scores pretty much all the fantasy points if you're putting McCaffrey in there, or Cam Newton vultures a few touchdowns on the goal line and he gets there, and you can kind of run a naked Cam Newton and get some of those higher game total people into your game stacks. Anyway, that's the Washington-Carolina game. We're going to finish it up with New Orleans at Philly. Again, 42.5-point total. Philadelphia 3-point home favorites here over New Orleans. New Orleans offensive pass protection is number 21. Philadelphia number 16. A little bit in favor of Philadelphia there, but New Orleans probably going to need to get the ball out a little bit quicker, but have a minor amount of time. We have Alvin Kamara out again, so Mark Ingram should see plenty of targets and all of the run game work, which is probably where they're going to be successful because they are number 10 in the offensive run blocking. Philadelphia number 27 in the adjusted rush yards on defense. That's a green-red matchup, number 10 versus number 27. Mark Ingram should find plenty of success on the ground and probably a few extra targets just from the quarterback being under pressure there. Just keep that in mind. Mark Ingram, probably the only guy from New Orleans that I'm interested in starting. You could do some dart throws with Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway, but not super interested in that. Philadelphia side, they are number 12 in the offensive pass protection. New Orleans, number 25 in the defensive pass rush. So Philadelphia should have some more time to throw the ball. Devonta Smith, we have seen able to get open with his route running. I think this is a very good spot for Devonta Smith. Being on the low game total, I actually like Devonta Smith in this particular week. I don't know how many people are going to be on him, and he could have a very nice over 100 yards and multi-touchdown week against New Orleans this week, so keep that in mind. Philadelphia pass attack. We could see Goddard with some targets as well, or Quez Watkins with the high yards per catch in this particular matchup. He does get open deep, and they do target him. It's just kind of trying to be successful there. Quez Watkins could take one to the house on a deep route. Just keep that in mind as a very sneaky GPP throw that nobody's going to be on. And he's probably cheap on both sides, so keep that in mind. The run blocking side, very good for Philadelphia, number 7, but New Orleans is first in the defensive adjusted rush yards. Don't expect Philadelphia's rush game to be very good in this particular matchup. We have Miles Sanders potentially coming back, but I don't know what kind of role that would be with Jordan Howard there. I want to avoid the running back situation there in Philadelphia, and pretty much just trying to get Devonta Smith from this particular matchup or Mark Ingram. I think those are your run backs, those two guys. So that's going to do it for week 11 of the DFS adjusted line play report, folks. We got through it. I think we maybe missed some of the upset alert type things, but go take a peek on Twitter for those type of things. That is at Todzilla1337. You can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. If you're listening to this on YouTube, give myself a subscribe. If you're listening to this on Podbean, certainly follow the podcast on there. You can get all of this in-depth adjusted line play report information every single week, where we're going to go win some money and make it rain, folks. All right, that's going to do it for week 11. Hashtag, these not really sponsoring me. I just wanted to give a disclaimer in case I get into some legal problems. They don't really sponsor me. Anyway, folks, week 11. Send me some messages if you have any questions. Otherwise, let's go win some money together. Peace. Bye.